Have you ever felt your privacy being violated? Did you know that something as simple as a pool in your own backyard could turn into a battleground? That's exactly what happened to me. My private backyard pool, the place I go for peace and quiet, was about to be taken from me by the HOA. No vote, no permission, just a smug woman with a clipboard telling me it now belonged to the neighborhood. What happened next turned a quiet morning into a fight for justice, and you won't believe how it all unfolded. It all started on a Saturday morning that was supposed to be calm. I had just finished skimming the last leaf out of the pool, something that always calms my younger brother Eli. For him, the pool isn't just water, it's a reset button, a place where he can feel at ease, especially since he deals with anxiety. Just as I was finishing up, I heard it, the unmistakable clack of heels on concrete. Karen, president of the Briar Ridge HOA, self-declared guardian of community standards, and possibly a reincarnated drill sergeant. She didn't knock, didn't greet us, just barged through our gate with a clipboard like it was a search warrant and said, "Big news, Mason," like I was supposed to be thrilled. "Your pool has been designated the venue for our VIP spring social next Saturday." I blinked. "What now?" I asked. "Oh, don't worry, you don't have to do anything," she said, tapping on her phone like she was sending out invites. "This is a community effort. Influencers are coming, the HOA board has approved everything, and we've even printed flyers." I pointed to the sign on my gate that said, "Private property, no trespassing." It was bold, clear, and even had a little painted sunflower Eli added to make it less aggressive. Karen gave it a look like it smelled bad. "Oh, Mason, that's adorable, but community events take priority," she said, flipping her clipboard around to show me a typed-up event priority mandate, clearly written by her. "You need to leave my property now," I said, deadpan. "I'm not sure you understand, Mason," she said, as if I was the one who had lost my mind. "This event will be good for the whole neighborhood. Think of the exposure, the social media buzz. We're giving your pool some much-needed attention." I clenched my fists, trying to keep calm. I wasn't just angry, I was insulted. This was my space, my home, my backyard. "Karen, I told you, you can't just take over my property like this," I said, my voice steady but firm. "This pool is on my land, and I've done nothing to invite your intrusion." She waved me off, still smiling, as though this was some trivial disagreement we could laugh off. "Oh, Mason, please, you don't have to do anything. Just leave it to us. We've already got all the flyers printed. We've coordinated with local influencers." "Karen," I interrupted, "this is my property, not the neighborhood's. You can't just show up and take it over because you feel like it. No, that's not how this works." She raised an eyebrow at me, dismissing my concerns as though they were nothing. "Well, you don't get it, do you? This is what we do for the community, and frankly, we've got the board's full support," Karen said, sounding like she had a plan for everything except respecting other people's property. "You're being difficult, Mason. Why don't you just be a good neighbor and let us use the space?" At that moment, Eli came out on the porch, still wiping sleep from his eyes. He looked at Karen, then at me, sensing the tension in the air. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "This woman thinks she can take over our pool for a neighborhood event," I said, keeping my tone as calm as I could for Eli's sake. Karen's eyes flicked to Eli and back to me, as if suddenly realizing we were a family, a unit, and her words could hurt more than just me. "Your brother's a bit too sensitive, isn't he? This is just a little event. No harm in it."
"This isn't just a little event. It's our pool, our home," he said quietly, though there was a clear edge of anger in his voice. He had always been sensitive to things that felt unfair, but he rarely ever spoke up. The fact that he was so upset made me even more determined to stand my ground. Karen was growing frustrated. She shifted her weight, tapping her foot impatiently. "Look, Mason, you're being difficult. I'm just doing what's best for the neighborhood, for all of us. You'll see, it'll bring us closer together. Think of the neighborhood pride we'll have once we host this event. Your pool could be the focal point for the whole summer." "You have no right to use my property without my permission, Karen," I shouted, my patience finally breaking. Her eyes widened at my outburst, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something real, maybe surprise, maybe fear, but it quickly vanished behind her usual mask of control. "Fine," she said, "but just so you know, there are consequences for obstructing HOA business." My mind raced. Consequences? What kind of consequences was she threatening? Fines? Legal action? "You need to leave my property now," I said through gritted teeth, taking a step toward her. Karen, caught off guard by my resolve, finally turned on her heel, stomping out of the yard. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I spent the next few hours seething, going over every word in my head. I couldn't let her get away with this. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Karen was used to pushing people around, manipulating them with her so-called community standards. But this time, it was different. This time, I wasn't going to back down. Karen had left, but Mason remained, the anger still burning inside him. This wasn't the first time he'd encountered people like Karen, but this time it was different. This wasn't just about a disagreement over fence height or mailbox color. This was about ownership, personal freedom, and the right to decide what happens in his own home. He turned back to look at Eli, his younger brother still sitting there, his face full of concern. "Are you okay, Eli?" he asked, his voice softer now. I don't know," he replied, his voice low. "How could she think she had the right to come here, do that to us, and think there would be no consequences?" Mason sat down beside Eli, placing a hand on his brother's shoulder. "I get how you feel, but you see, Karen didn't realize what we're willing to do to protect our family. She went too far this time, and we won't let it go on." Eli nodded, visibly relieved by his brother's comforting words. They both knew this wasn't going to be a simple confrontation, but Mason was determined to not let Karen or anyone take advantage of his family. The next day, Mason began planning his next steps to stop Karen. He reached out to a few neighbors who had also been harassed by her and gathered stories about her oppressive tactics. It turned out Karen wasn't just giving Mason trouble. She had done the same to several other families in the neighborhood. From criticizing wind chimes for being too whimsical to fining people for not cutting their grass at the right height, Karen had created a culture of fear and intimidation. Mason knew that confronting Karen head-on might not immediately change anything, but he had to speak out. He began drafting an official letter to the HOA board, requesting action to stop Karen's abuse of power and demanding she be removed from her position. He also made plans to attend the upcoming HOA meeting, where all the neighborhood residents would gather to discuss issues in the community. When the HOA meeting day arrived, Mason came prepared. He had done his research, gathered evidence of Karen's abuse, and was ready to stand his ground. As the meeting started and Karen walked into the room, a tense atmosphere settled in. The residents stared at her, many of them familiar with her previous acts of overreach. "Thank you for joining us," the meeting chairperson said, scanning the room. "Today we will be discussing important community issues, and I hope everyone will show respect and listen to one another." Mason stood up, seizing the moment before Karen could speak. He began sharing his story, making it clear that she had entered his home without any legal grounds, acted as though she had the right to take his property, and violated HOA rules in the process. He didn't just talk about Karen's infringement on his family's privacy, but also pointed out that she had broken the HOA's own guidelines and demanded a proper solution. The room fell silent, and the eyes of the residents shifted from sympathy to outrage. Several people began speaking up, voicing their own experiences with Karen's behavior. By this point, Karen no longer carried the air of confidence she once had, and her face began to redden. "Okay," she said, trying to regain composure. "I don't understand why you're all doing this. All I was trying to do was keep our neighborhood nice and neat." Mason didn't let her off the hook. "Maintaining neatness doesn't mean overriding people's rights, Karen. What you did isn't just unprofessional. It's an abuse of power. It needs to stop." Karen fell silent, unable to justify her actions any longer. Finally, the meeting chairperson spoke up. "We will review Mason's request and conduct an investigation into these allegations. You will be notified of the results in 2 weeks." Mason sat down, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He knew the battle wasn't over, but at least he had made some progress. He looked over at Eli, giving him a smile. "See, Eli, we're not the kind of people who back down easily." Eli nodded, pride evident in his eyes. "You did great, Mason. I'm proud of you." Mason's heart swelled with pride. He had not only protected his family, but also stood up for what he believed in: fairness and justice. The battle was far from over, but at least it had shown Karen that power could be challenged, and that sometimes standing up for your rights could lead to real change. Remember, strength doesn't always come from power or privilege, but from the ability to stand up for what is right. And when needed, don't hesitate to use every legal and proper means at your disposal to make that happen.